Welcome to week 2 of the Waiver Watch Draft. I'm Jay Mill. I'm here with my partner Willie B. We'll introduce our guest shortly, but first, just want to give you a quick introduction. It's our second week ever of recording any content for you guys. We had a great response last week to week 1. It's been a useful tool for people to do our Waiver Watch Draft for the last 3 seasons. Just so you understand what it is, it's a 4-person draft where we're picking players that are only rostered under 30% on Fantrax with the intentions of specifically helping you for week 2. You might see a lot of players that we feel like have talent to stay on your roster for the rest of the season, but we're competing against each other to come up with the best lineup for week 2 in hopes of providing a lot of options for you at quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight end. We're going to each take one quarterback. We'll each take 2 running backs and receivers, and each take 1 tight end. So with that, we want to get into a quick recap of week 1 and the players, the results, I guess, from last week. Congratulations to CFF Jared from Chasing the Natty and Campus to Canton. He made a late night comeback. Looks like Casey Thompson helped pull him to victory with a 33-point game last night. Ashlock, helped him out early on with 31 points, 2 great pickups. He also had Schrader with 25, and Jared really was, hitting with half of his lineup, making a good impression. Second place was myself, Jay Mill, 83.7, but Willie B was really close with 83.3. The biggest hit for me was Marcus Carroll at Georgia State, who, we'll see, may or may not be taken by someone again this week because a lot of these players still remain under 30%, so we'll find out. Willie B, how do you think you did last week, or what do you think might have went wrong for you to get third place?
Really, it was the week 0 effect. Running backs, total miss. I think we have 4.5 points total from
Yeah.
Lawrence and Jones.
Right.
With Jones, we definitely got Riley'd. I don't think he saw the field much at all.
Right.
I think I noticed him maybe a little bit in the third quarter. That was it. So
Yeah.
definitely disappointed in the running backs for sure.
Yeah, and I think Jones fell into a category we saw across the board with a few misleading depth chart notes from coaches this week, probably a little gamesmanship on their part. We saw some running backs play a lot more than we thought they would, like Carson Steele over TJ Harden. We kind of saw the opposite here with Austin Jones not getting as much as we thought he would. And I think even with the guys from Nebraska, my running back, Gabe Irvin, was supposed to be the clear number 1, but Anthony Grant, who was supposedly in the doghouse, made his way out of the doghouse and actually had more carries than Gabe Irvin. So a little bit of gamesmanship, I think, but as each week goes, you get a better feel for what coaches are going to really do. So for week 2, our picks across the board should be even better, especially with the guests we have, which will lead us into this week 2 draft. We've got Brandon Sanders from CFF University. He also is an analyst for Campus to Canton. He does the Future Freshmen podcast, as the expert on the players you need to watch for your Campus to Canton leagues, your Devy leagues, all the way from high school through the NFL ranks. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure to finally get to see your faces in person and not just talk on Twitter. So it's always good to come together as well. And it's always good to see the other guests. As always, an OG in this league as well. So it's always good to see the Gridiron Scholar as well.
Yeah, I'll introduce him now. He is the OG. Mike Farrell likes to refer to himself as the recruiting godfather. We'll start referring to John Laub as the CFF godfather. John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar. He's your guy that's giving you all the insight on Fantrax when you read a lot of the editorial content over there for advice. He's got the Rookie Big Board podcast because, like a lot of us, before there was CFF, he's probably 30 years deep into the NFL side of things, so he still enjoys giving you content on both the CFF world and the NFL world. But welcome to the show, John, and how'd you feel about week 1?
Oh my God, it was the most exciting 72 hours, man. I still think I'm on an adrenaline rush. We could not have asked for more unbelievable games. And man, that TCU Colorado game, that had me on the edge of my seat. I couldn't leave. I was supposed to go shopping with my wife. I just said it'll be over by 3:30. It was not, and I could not leave the television.
Yeah, that was incredible.
It was incredible. I mean, for an opening week game like that on a Saturday, I mean, just the ambiance, the game, the scoring, the performances. I mean, we can talk about Shedeur Sanders, but watching Hunter play both sides of the ball like it's 1930.
Yeah.
It was simply, what was he, at one time in the third quarter, they said he was on the field for 60 snaps already?
Yeah.
Like, that's just, that's just unbelievable in today's game. And he had an interception. It was riveting all day long.
Yeah, it was really like a movie, and I kept thinking, like, okay, it looked like TCU was going to kind of kick the door down and kind of take the lead and not let up. And I was thinking personally, like, wow, okay, Travis Hunter did what he did through a half or three quarters, but at some point exhaustion is going to kick in. They won't be as effective in the fourth quarter using him. But, I mean, the kid just kept going and going. He was like the Energizer Bunny yesterday afternoon.
It was really an unbelievable performance. I mean, we all love quarterbacks. We're college fantasy football. But watching Hunter perform yesterday, that might be in the top 5 all time that I've seen in college football.
That was a moment. That was a historic moment that I think we saw yesterday. I wanted to also ask Brandon and Willie B, like, do you have any standout moments from yesterday before we get into the draft? I've got one of my own, but I'll just, anything stand out besides the TCU Colorado game that really caught your attention?
For me, I'm just going to be the homer. We're the real Carolina. We showed out, had a good performance. I like the nice run game we got going, a little bit of thunder and lightning back in the system. So although people are scared of Chip Lindsey, don't be. We still got a lot of the same staff, and we still got Drake, so it'll be okay. Also, #free Tez. It's ridiculous.
Right.
The NCAA is being ridiculous. I've said my piece on Twitter, so if you want, or X, whatever, if you want to go read what I think of the NCAA, you can do that. But until then, #free Tez. But shout out to the Tar Heels putting up a good performance. I think we can be better, but it's still a good performance nonetheless in the first game. So shout out to the Tar Heels.
All right, Willie, anything stand out to you before we get into the draft?
Nothing particular. I really liked the way Cam Ward played. I mean, I know it was Colorado State, but this kid is still, has a lot to prove, and he's showing me, why he made that move up, that step up in competition.
Yeah,
so I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, we get excited when guys step up and it's their first year, and we know what they're capable of. But it just shows you sometimes you just have to be patient and things will happen. I think on a kind of maybe a lesser level, you're seeing that even with Hawaii. A lot of us were excited to see what that system change was going to lead to last year. Probably got ahead of ourselves with the receivers we drafted and Shager and how it turned out. But I think you're seeing some similar stuff happen now with Hawaii and them getting comfortable with the coach. He did, tweak the system to kind of go back to what he's known for from his era with Tommy Chang, former quarterback from Hawaii. There we go.
Yeah,
and
along with that though too, J Mel, Texas State. We were talking about, what would that look like, and they sure had a lot of firepower yesterday.
Yeah, I'll conclude with this. During the day, like I still don't know how to fully get all that I can from like that 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock hour of all the games going. We can all watch like 7 games at one time now, it seems like, and it's a little bit overwhelming, and you want to see it all, but at some point I'm like, okay, I'm going to check my scores later and just enjoy the games. I try to remind myself to do that, but I think my favorite moment of the night is my youngest son just finished at Marshall. He's back in our home league, and he was down by like 20, but he had Tyler Shuck. And so I just enjoyed having one game on at the end of the night instead of trying to scramble between 7. And I got to watch my son's quarterback lead him to victory by 2 points by being able to go into overtime against Wyoming. And, again, it's college fantasy. I don't care that Texas Tech didn't win. I like that Tyler Shuck got my son a victory in our home league and in his first year back. And kind of like that settling down of the day once you get to the late night games where you're like, wow, okay, what a whirlwind. But you're kind of happy to then just be able to tune into one game that has a fantasy football impact also.
Yep, that's really interesting because Wyoming wasn't on my mind. I was into the UCLA game, which J. Michael Sturdivant showed out for me in my personal home league. But we had to go up against the Gridiron Scholar in the King's Classic, and so
Right.
Sturdivant actually hurt us a little bit there. So that
That's
game's
right.
not
Yeah,
over.
John. Any predictions on how it will play out over the next 2 days? I think we've got a 30-point lead over you, and you've got 2 players left. What are your chances to come back against us?
I would say I'm like a 48% chance. I think you guys are in a good spot.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible because I know one of them's Will Shipley, right?
There we go.
I know I have a running back, and I'm not
it's,
sure.
Benson from Florida State, I think.
Trey Benson. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I have a running back, and then who's my other? I'm sorry. I have
You've got
10
one other.
leads.
Yeah. I mean,
Malik Neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah.
That's
So
it.
you got a
Ooh,
shot. You need 15 from each, so you're 15 or 16 from each, which I'd say we're in a 50-50 territory here with who's going to win our first matchup in the Kings Classic.
I would say I need a touchdown from each to give me a really decent chance.
For sure.
And I'm not sure if you're going to get a substitute for that Wells injury or not.
No, I don't think we're doing
Oh,
substitutes.
I did have
right.
My substitutes listed.
Okay, all right.
So I'm
I
not
forgot
certain
about
on
that.
I'm not certain on that. 'Cause,
Okay,
I mean,
yeah,
he
I forgot we had substitutes in that league. That's right.
Yeah, he
Okay.
did play,
Did he
but
play-
obviously
did he-
no stats.
Did he play?
He did play.
Oh, then they probably will give him a 0 on that.
I don't know what the computer.
Usually,
Well,
if they,
I don't know what the computer does. It's just automatic.
yeah. From what I saw
Oh.
last year when they were experimenting with it, if he shows up as a DNP, you'll get the substitute. But if they do have any record of him playing,
Yes.
then you get the 0. Then you get the 0.
He had one target is what it's showing. So
Yeah, so I have a feeling
Then I'll get the 0.
I think you'll get the 0.
I'll get the 0.
Whew, thank you.
I didn't. That's why I wrote him off.
All right, well, let's keep this thing moving. Appreciate you guys being here again. And Willie B, you had the first pick last week, and you got the first pick again this week. We promise we use random.org for our order, but go ahead and kick us off.
I really don't like this spot anymore. I'm used to picking last, so I really hate this. I waffled around last night and earlier this morning. But we're gonna land on. I mean, the kid deserves this, so we're gonna go Dylan Edwards from Colorado.
Oh,
Good pick.
I get sniped on the first
Good
pick.
pick. Good pick.
Okay.
Good pick.
Okay. All right. What'd you like about him this week most, Tracy? What'd you like about him, Willie?
The explosiveness.
Yeah.
He was the other than the guy throwing him the ball, he was the baddest man out there. I mean, imagine the practices he and Hunter have. Just imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, he is incredible. He's dynamic. That's what I like.
Yeah, and then it's one of those moments after the game I realized how old we're getting because I go, wow, the kid looks like he's 13 when he was doing his post-game interview.
Yeah, exactly.
Being a true freshman, he's probably 18 years old and, had that kind of a game. All right, nice pick to get us started. John, you're up next.
Well, man, you already took the one guy I wanted with the second pick. I thought I might get him. So let me ask: are we a hard 30? Because there's someone I want at 32%.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
we're hard under 30 or under 30.
And John, real quick, I will say this, and that Jared bent the rule, and if we were not on our first show live, I would not have allowed it. So he definitely has an asterisk.
Yeah, Jared took a 29.7, which we would have rounded up to 30 in the old days, and so he technically got away with one with Schrader last week, I think.
This is going to break my heart, but I have to do it. He's playing UConn. That's why I didn't want to take this player. But I got to root for him, I guess, in this game. I'm going to go Marcus Carroll, Georgia State.
Yep.
He's at 26% rostered right now. And what did he score? 39 points last week.
Yeah, he was on my team. He was on my waiver team last week, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to start him against the Huskies and hope for the best.
Yep. Well, that's interesting. I'll save why that's interesting in my opinion for maybe my pick. We'll see. All right, Brandon, you're up.
All right, let's go. I think I'm going to do positional advantage. I got to take the guy. I'm going to go tight end first. I'm going to go Jared Wiley there at TCU. Great performance against Colorado. Has a great matchup coming up. 4% owned, which is fantastic. Please go scoop him up. That guy might be a good asset for you this season.
Okay. You got that, Willie? You going to get that plugged in?
Yeah, one more time. Yeah, give me one more time on that one.
Yeah, repeat the name.
Sure. Jared Wiley, tight end,
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah, from
TCU.
TCU. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's there were a few tight ends that kind of came out of nowhere, and that's always the case. I think every year you kind of get 4 or 5 tight ends, and you're like, where'd they come from? But that's why you should never panic at tight end. I think also.
Correct. Yeah,
Um,
pick 'em up.
yeah, this is interesting. I guess I've got back to back, so I will. I think I will stick with a guy I've got in a couple leagues, and mentioned earlier. I'll go with Shager from Hawaii.
Okay.
I feel like it's one of those where they're playing Albany. It could, get out of hand early, and maybe he gets pulled early. But I don't feel like they're the type of team that's going to stop throwing the ball this year. So I'm going to go with Shager from Hawaii at quarterback. And I think, again, this is kind of that depth chart conversation we were having. I'm going to go Rosa at running back against Georgia State.
Oh, nice.
Because I knew John would be snatching him up there. We kind of got fooled into thinking maybe he had slipped to running back 2 for the Huskies, but again, that was a little gamesmanship. I think he was playing in the first series by play number 5, if I remember, on Thursday night. So I'm not worried about Rosa anymore. Not doing what we thought he was going to do. The coach just tried to fool us with the depth chart shenanigans, and so that's who I'm going with as my first running back.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I saw that game live.
Yep.
There is no question in my mind. Rosa is by far the better football player and running back than Houston. Maybe Houston's more athletic.
Right.
Maybe he's a better practice player. I don't have access. But when it comes to football on the field, Rose is by far better.
Yep. And the way he developed last year and kept getting better and better by the bowl game. I mean, you could see it as a true freshman. So, I was a little puzzled, like a lot of people, when he came out as 2 on the depth chart. They were even saying 3 on the depth chart, in the early fall camp. I think that's a little motivation. Let's not let the true sophomore get a little ahead of himself and keep him motivated. So, all right, Brandon, what do you got?
All right. I'm confident I could probably get my quarterback in the next round, so I'm going to take the wide receiver advantage. I'm still going to go. He's still only, 26% rostered. That's Pofeli Ashlock out of Hawaii.
Yep.
I'll go with Jay Mills, wide receiver.
Oh, my guys.
That way I can combat him there, so I'm going to go with Ashlock from Hawaii.
Oops. All right.
Did I snipe you, John?
Yeah, that was the one I wanted to get.
Got it.
So I'm just.
Brandon, I struggled with it last week too. Can you help me on the spelling of his first name again? I forget how it's.
I got it. Philly.
Oh, you got
He's got it. Yeah, Pofeli.
Okay, cool. Cool.
All right, if you see me looking down, I'm looking down at my list. So that's the other. I have an iPad. You know what? I'm going to take a chance here that Michigan's going to do something different. And especially with these 3 early season blowouts expected. I'm taking Roman Wilson of the Michigan Wolverines. He's on 8% of rosters. He exploded for 31 points yesterday. I like him. Let's take Roman Wilson here.
All right, you got it. Yeah, traditionally, these last few years, you haven't really wanted to touch a Michigan wide receiver, but he definitely had a breakout game. So, it's going to be interesting to see if, he can keep that up. And Willie, let's move into your back-to-back picks and see what you got here.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to go. Excuse me. I'm going to go TJ Finley.
Okay.
Yeah, good call.
At QB, you got it.
At QB.
Yeah, you did good.
Okay. Gotcha. And that's one where a lot of people, he's only available because people weren't expecting him to win that job. Or I guess the majority of people weren't expecting him to win that job. So that was one of those last-minute QB decisions by Texas State. So he should be widely available, and at least in 2/3 of the leagues from what Fantrax is showing. So that is a great pickup with the new system there.
Yeah, a lot of the C2C people mourned that Hornsby did not get the go, so I was crying all together.
Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, he came in after spring. That's never a good sign when you're bringing in quarterback transfers after spring for those looking for clues. You know, if a team's still looking after the spring, it means they weren't too pleased maybe with what they saw during the spring.
Pretty much.
All right, what do you got for the back-to-back picks, Willie?
I'm going to go also with the guy who hurt me in our home league yesterday. I'm going to go Nathan Carter, running back from Michigan State.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a transfer from UConn. So we got a lot of UConn connections today with John, Rosa, and Nathan Carter, all being referenced here in the same broadcast.
Carter's a stud.
Yep. All right. And that was another cloudy situation that really started to take shape. You had like three guys there between Carter and Berger and one of the other transfers from the Florida schools that was there, Mangum. So, yeah, it was a mess. So hopefully, you know, the clutter's cleared and people can rely on Carter now. John, no rush.
All right.
Take your time.
No, I just wanted to make sure. I just don't want to jump in. I'm going to go Cody Schrader, 23% rostered of Mizzou. I'm going to go volume. Their schedule is pretty easy early in the season if you've been looking at Mizzou. And he just had too many carries. The volume is there. He had 138 yards rushing. He had 3 receptions, so he's active in this. He's the goal line back. So I like Schrader here for volume. I got 2 volume running backs.
Yeah, nice. And it looks like Brandon, we'll see. Interesting strategy here with the 2 guys ahead of you filling their running back spots, and I've got one. What are you going to do here?
Yeah, surprisingly, a lot of the guys I have listed are still not taken, so I'm confident in that. So I'm going to move to the quarterback position and take my guy, Byron Brown, USF. What a game against Western Kentucky, right? It was a great game to watch. I always love Western Kentucky and watching them play, but they got another cupcake matchup. Western Kentucky was not a cupcake, but they did well, even though they fell short. But they got an FCS opponent this week, so I feel like Brown is going to get a little bit more time to take his time and put up those points. But he did really good. He's only 26% rostered so far.
Yeah, and let's not forget over at USF, because I actually did forget this until I was tuning into Chasing the Natty last week for their Week 1 preview. The USF staff got the protege of the Josh Heupel disciple is over there. So, you know, a lot of what you've seen in the last few years from, you know, Josh Heupel's offenses at UCF, even Missouri before that, and Tennessee now, you're going to see it at USF. And, you know, that was on, full display yesterday. You know, they looked like a completely different team, from 2022. All right, that leaves it up to me. I could close out running backs, but I don't think I want to do that. Okay, yeah, here we go. I'm going to go with Macklin from North Texas. They're playing Florida International. I like that matchup. We knew North Texas was going to come out and be throwing the ball a lot more. They were pretty effective at it. Macklin was the leading candidate there with 4 catches, 122 yards, but out of those 4 catches, 2 of them were touchdowns. I think his targets are only going to increase, and I like the matchup versus FIU this week. So I'm going to go with Macklin at North Texas. Oh, and I get back-to-back picks. How about that? Okay. Oops, that's in the wrong spot. I'll let Willie B handle that for me. I put it in the wrong spot, Willie. Sorry.
I got you.
I shouldn't type and pick at the same time. Yeah, we'll slow that down. Okay. Yeah, I've only got a short list of 4 because I knew I wouldn't need more than that at tight end. But there's 2 that I really liked. I liked who Brandon took at TCU. I'm going to stay within the state of Texas, and I'm going to go with Drake. Is it Drake Dabney at Baylor?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had the 6 catches, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't care that they're playing Utah. They didn't look the best as a team, but I've always had a philosophy when teams aren't doing their best, the tight end is the one position that the quarterback can still rely on and maybe throw to as a safety net. And it looks like the targets are not going to be an issue with Drabney. May have even beaten out the transfer from North Texas that a lot of us thought would be starting at tight end with Roberts. But it looks like it's Drabney's job now. And targets he won't have any shortage of targets. So I'm gonna take my tight end a little earlier than usual for the waiver watch because there were two that I really liked, and he was the last one.
Sweet.
Brandon,
Well,
back to you.
I'm going to put a running back on the board finally, and I'm going to shoot from deep. I'm going to go with Sean Dollars of Nevada, who had a dominant performance as well. Good matchup as well coming up. 10% rostered, man. What a great steal. Go ahead and grab that guy too.
That's good. Yeah, a lot of people felt like his move from Oregon, down to the group of five, would be positive, and you might have had to wait until Mountain West season to see that, but he's already shown results early. Even against playing for Nevada against a Power 5 team, he showed that. I think he's got even a lot more potential once they get into conference play this year too. But he's one that was on my list as well.
Yeah, he's gonna have a lot of tape this year, which is good for him.
Yep. John, that's going to bring us back to you.
So I almost made a mistake here, but I don't need a quarterback at this point, and the guy I like is still on the board.
Okay.
And I see Willie needs 2 wide receivers, so I'd be foolish to take my quarterback right here.
I like it.
I'm going to take my wide receiver, and I mentioned this on a podcast about 2 weeks ago. Everyone loves Drew Allar. And I'm saying to myself, if the projections for Drew Allar are out of control, and who the heck is catching his passes?
Yep.
And no one owns this guy.
Kale.
And all he did yesterday was go out and get 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's still only 22% owned. I'm going Keandre Lambert of Penn State. I just look at Franklin's got a great track record with his alpha male receivers. This young man has been playing since his freshman year. I love him. Go get him. No one's talking about him. If you like Allar, someone's catching the passes from him. So I'm taking Lambert here.
Yeah,
and snipe me, man. You snipe me good.
Maybe one of you guys know, but I meant to check that box score, and it's one of the ones I didn't get to look at. How did Cephas end up doing? Because I felt like Lambert Smith was going to be the guy coming out of camp with all the spring reports you heard. Cephas wasn't in camp during the spring. But does anybody have the stat line for Cephas in comparison to Lambert Smith, who
I don't know.
He had 2 touchdowns also, so it's clear he's taking advantage of his seniority there.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I wasn't impressed with the stat line, but I don't remember it off the top of the head because I was just looking at Lambert's numbers. I was like, yes.
We'll find that and report back here momentarily because I know a lot of people have Cephas as the Penn State wide receiver 1, which might have been jumping the gun a little bit because very positive reports. I don't think the Lambert Smith performance was a fluke at all.
Yeah, so Cephas went for only 1 reception, 22 yards, 3.2 fantasy points. So not great.
Yeah. It's a tough transfer, and he wasn't there for spring, which is we should have read the tea leaves there.
Yeah.
All right. Willie B.
Yeah, he did not snipe me there, so that's good.
Okay.
I'm going to go Deion Burks from Purdue.
Yeah, that's another one I wanted.
4% owned.
Okay.
They have a nice little matchup this week. Let's see, they've got Virginia Tech, which they should just be able to do their thing all day long.
Yeah, they didn't look the best again yesterday.
And then I'm going to go back and grab a tight end here. Let me see here. We're going to go John Michael Gillenborg.
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
From Wyoming.
What's the spelling on that?
That was a good
Willie?
comeback.
I got it.
You got
I got
it?
you.
Okay. Let me back out of here then. I'll let you take it.
That was a nice comeback because I turned that game off thinking Texas Tech, and then I woke up at like 3 in the morning. I'm like, what?
No,
Wyoming won that game? I was like, wow.
That was a fun one. That was a real fun one. And we're in a best ball league called the Sickos League where the first 250 players are eliminated. Priestley, the Wyoming quarterback, was the last quarterback I took in the Sickos League. He ended up being my highest scoring quarterback in that best ball yesterday.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, some big payoff there from the going deep. All
All
right.
right, I'm going to have to go a tight end here because both the gentlemen who follow me have quarterbacks.
Yeah, actually, John,
Oh, you all have
don't have
tight
to
ends,
keep
so I
any
guess it
secrets
doesn't
here.
matter what I do right now.
Okay.
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bank on system right here. I'm going to go Cameron Height of Wake Forest. If I got to take a tight end, I'm going to go with the high-scoring offense. They looked very competent throwing the ball, so I'll take the opportunity here that there's still some targets in this offense for him.
Gotcha.
1% owned as of last night. I'll have to check it today, but
1%.
I did like it. I did like that pick.
All right. And then we're coming back to Brandon. Who?
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and lock in my wide receiver because I still feel good at running back. I'm gonna take a guy that gets overlooked because there's good options at their team, but I'm gonna take Dane Key out of Kentucky, only 24% rostered. Another good matchup to come as well. So he balled out in week 1 for sure.
What was the last
Yeah, I
name?
wasn't happy.
Dane Key.
Dane Key.
Yeah,
Oh,
from
Key at receiver. Yeah,
Kentucky.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I had Barry and Brown all over the place in DFS. I was so mad that he was
went
keep
off.
getting targeted. I'm like, come on!
Yeah, Key had a good day.
All right, so I guess I will close out my draft here. Obviously, I've got to get a running back and a tight end. And a receiver. I'm going to take a running back that I had questioned over Twitter that I wondered why he wasn't being rostered earlier or drafted earlier in a lot of drafts that I saw, which is McCammon from Florida Atlantic. He was a 1,000-yard back last year. He ended up with 125 last night to start the season, and they're playing Ohio, who I'm not scared of, for McCammon. So I'm going to go with McCammon, who I think was grossly underdrafted during the offseason. And again, he's a guy I think, not just this week, but season long, you'll be able to benefit from. And at receiver, I think I'll end up going with the target of a quarterback nobody's taken yet that surprised me. I'm going to take the Cincinnati #1 target at receiver from yesterday, Henderson, who ended up with 7 catches for 149 yards and a touchdown in an offense that was on fire with Emory Jones. Which, like I said, I think Emory Jones was even still under 30%. So we'll see if that's on John's radar for his quarterback pick, since we've all taken one. Be interesting to see if that's where John goes with his. But I'll take Henderson from Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I could sneak him in.
All right. Always glad to smack somebody. Okay. Brandon, will you just get your last pick?
All right, let's lock it in. I'm gonna go with another team that I like, that I was really impressed with the tempo. It's definitely different from what we've seen in past. So I'm going Trevion Cooley out of Georgia Tech. He's got a great matchup against South Carolina State, and Trevion is only 17% rostered right now, and I actually like him better than Smith. I think Cooley should probably wind up being RB1 there in Georgia Tech, so I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah, that was another one that you really didn't know, because they kept it quiet during the offseason, who was going to be RB1. I've got Cooley in a couple of dynasty leagues and was a little disappointed when he left Louisville to go to Georgia Tech, because it seemed like he was stepping into a mess. But it seems like a situation where the talent prevailed, and even if they want to go committee, I don't think they're going to be able to with the way Cooley looked yesterday.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah. All right, that's going to close you out. We'll go to John and find out who that quarterback's going to be, and if it will be Emory Jones.
So I have 2 quarterbacks that I like.
Okay.
Emory Jones and Mickey Keene of Fresno.
Oh, yeah.
I love Keene.
So the question here to me is, do I go ceiling or floor? Also, I have to consider opponents.
Right.
Mickey Keene has Eastern Washington. That should be an easy game.
Right.
Emory Jones is on the road against Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh has enough linemen and and linebackers to slow Emory Jones down. Now, if it was season long, I'm definitely going Emory Jones, because I think he's going to hit the nugget a bunch of times as the season progresses. But man, I want to have like 30 points against you three gentlemen, and this is a hard matchup.
It is.
So I'm going to go Mickey Keene at 11% ownership at home against Eastern Washington. I thought they looked really good yesterday, Fresno.
Yeah, they were very impressive, and it's a team that replaced every skill player on the roster from offense last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right, and that's why they weren't on my radar, except for who's the running back? Why can't I remember his name? I've been looking at him. Who's the Fresno running back?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to. I know exactly who you're talking about because he really started emerging at the end. Yeah.
Yes. He's about the only guy I've been interested. Well, I mean, I like Keene at UCF, but I wanted to see how this It looked good yesterday. 41 points.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a good pick, and I love the background with kind of looking at the matchup and really looking for this week. Because again, to those watching, like we're trying to help you plug in holes that you might feel you need to plug this week. A lot of these guys are season-long guys that should add to your roster overall, but that's a great technicality that John pointed out there. He's trying to score the most he can right now with these waiver pickups. So, with that said, Willie, I'll plug in the team logo for Keene and let you announce your pick here for the final pick of Week 2's Waiver Watch Draft.
Well, since we're going to do the gamesmanship, and we're going to go Eric Brooks.
Okay.
From Fresno. So who's he going to throw to?
I see what you did there.
Yep. 9 for 170 and 2 touchdowns. So you talk about a volume pig, as our new friend over at Campus Decathlon would say.
Shout out to Justin.
There's your volume pig for Fresno, which again, we didn't know who any of these studs were going to be 3 weeks ago, but it's really starting to take shape, and that's the funnest part to me of Week 1 and 2 is we can predict and do all the research we want and dig into the local reports and try to get behind the paywalls, but until Week 1 jumps off, you don't have all the answers, no matter how much research you do. So, like, you go into a whole new mode of research after Weeks 1 and 2 to just see exactly who really is going to play. And don't be fooled sometimes by what happens in Week 1 because a lot of these teams are playing cream puffs, and you'll see guys that are backups getting more catches and more targets than the true starters. So you also, when you're looking, don't just look at the stat line. Try to look at when they scored, when they got their targets. Was it in the second half of a blowout? But I think Eric Brooks got his, throughout the game because he was in there the entire game. So this is definitely another pick that's not a fluke that should have some staying power even beyond this week. So, all right, guys.
I like that pick, Willie. That was a good gamesmanship and a good pick.
Yeah,
he's an interesting player.
Willie.
We had two counters to the quarterbacks in this draft.
We sure did.
Willie and Brandon both using the strategy of picking receivers of quarterbacks that are playing. With that, Brandon, you want to go through everybody, just kind of get your final thoughts on your team before we close out?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you did overall?
I think it did good, man. Definitely was stoked to get Ashlock. Go ahead and secured Wiley. I think that's a great pickup as well. I just wanted to have the tight end advantage. I think that might play into maybe squeaking out a victory here. We'll see how it goes. But there's some pretty stacked rosters, so I'm excited to see how we all do. But I do feel like I have a bit of the tight end advantage, having the higher end tight end, and then going with the upside of Brown and Ashlock. I think that's going to be a higher scoring affair. So I'm hoping that pans out really well.
All right, Willie, what about you?
I have to agree with him. They looked stacked last week, but this week, I mean, this is going to be wide open. I would hope that everybody's probably going to be in the 90 range as far as total points. I really wanted to make sure that I came away with Finley. I had to have Edwards, so that was why he was the first pick. The Gillenborg, I mean, tight end is always a crapshoot. What's our tight end? Our tight end one. What did he end up with? What did he end up with this week?
In week 1?
Yeah, Bowers. What did he end up with this week?
Like
I don't even know.
16.
Yeah,
15 or 16 because I have him a couple places.
Yeah. So I guess maybe in our standard scoring, he actually ended up with 19. Okay. Like we said, there are a ton of tight end. Obviously, week after week after week, he's probably going to end up in that top 10. But there's always some better value out there, and so I'm going to take the shot with Dylan Borg, and I'm just happy to see what we're going to come up with, and hopefully redeem ourselves. Third place is never good in this competition.
Yeah, and real quick before we get John's feelings on his team, Willie mentioned kind of a standard that we look at. When we started doing this by ourselves 2 years ago and just battling each other, we kind of looked at 90 as the barrier of a good performance on a week-to-week basis or a poor performance, really breaking it down as far as we're looking for quarterbacks that are going to get you 20+, running backs and receivers that are going to get you 15, and a tight end that can get you 10, hopefully. So if you combine all of those, you're looking at a 90-point performance that would be very respectful coming out of this. We've got guys that got 40 and 50 points because guys get hurt, guys just don't play like we thought. But we've also had guys that get 110 up to 140 points with some phenomenal games all across the board. But 90 really is the barrier to know if we've succeeded as a owner of these teams. With that said, John, who's going to be your highest scorer for your team out of everybody you got there?
So I do like Lambert Smith, the Penn State wide receiver, a lot. I've really come around on him. I'm impressed by him.
Yep.
Marcus Carroll has, I think, the biggest upside, but I'm a UConn fan, so maybe he keeps it to 20 points. He doesn't go off for the 3 touchdowns again. But I'll say one thing. I was up since 7 this morning working my waiver wire column for Fantrax.
Yep.
I think the running back position is the weakest right now. I think quarterback is loaded on the waiver wire. Wide receiver is very, very deep. So just my first thought process right now is I might have to put in higher bids for running backs than I will, and maybe I'll get some value at the other positions.
Yep.
Because look at Emory Jones, we didn't even pick him, and I guarantee you he's going to get selected. And I know, so I mean, obviously Jalen Milroe, he's on 45%. He doesn't qualify for this, but Milroe's still out there available in over 50% of leagues. So I think the quarterback is crazy deep this week.
Yeah. I agree with you, and that's a great point to people also. We mentioned it last week. You've really got to get a feel for how your league mates are going to spend the money if you're in a waiver system that has a budget. And it's something I hadn't thought about for this week 1, as far as the way John broke it down by position. Running back would be a position you probably need to go spend a little more money at for maybe even a lesser talented player because, it's such slimmer pickings, that are out there. And then the quarterbacks, are more available. Plummer is one that sticks out to me, too, that I would have considered in this draft. He's playing Murray State. He's 22% rostered. So, there are a handful of guys that remain available to you. I think running back happened to be I was going to say as the strong points of my team. I'm happiest with the running backs. I like that I got Shager at quarterback, but going against an FCS team, I'm not sure how that's going to shake out in terms, like I said, him playing a full game. But I really like the running backs with Rosa and McCammon, and I'll stand by the fact that I think McCammon is a good season-long pickup for anybody out there, not just looking to plug a hole for this week and the rest of the season. So, any final thoughts on just this week in general, and before we, make our exit, guys?
Work that waiver wire. Week 1 is so important in college fantasy football. If you can get 1 or 2 stars, and there are usually at least 2 or 3 stars every year this early in the season, go get them.
Yep. And just to add on to John, look at if you're doing your bids, your waiver wire bids, just look at the overall cost that you have and then kind of space that out. But you want to look for these studs often because this is going to be the cheapest that you can get them now. So John's right. If you want to spend up a little bit more in week 1 and week 2, that's the time to kind of use it. And then you can be a bit more sparingly with your waiver wire stuff later on in the season. So.
Right. And a lot of these guys you'll never have a chance to get again. So don't be afraid to spend a little money now because, as I've seen in a lot of leagues, even if you don't want to finish the season with all with the majority of your money still sitting there because you were trying to be cheap early on. your best pickups are going to probably be with the money you spend in weeks 1 and 2 here. So don't get outbid just because you're trying to be a little bit cheap, saving money for the end. And finally, John and Brandon, what are you going to be putting out this week in terms of content? Anything you would like to plug? Your work is great from both of you guys. It's exceptional. So what can we look for this week and during the season from you guys on a regular basis?
John, you can go ahead, buddy.
Oh, okay. First, I mentioned it already. I'm working on my waiver wire gemstones column for the Fantrax. I think this is my 6th year doing it. I did it 1 or 2 years for football diehards before for college fantasy football. So it's at least my 8th year doing this column. So hopefully you'll read that. It'll be out Tuesday morning. And then I'm going to get ready for all the DFS. I'm working with rotor grinders now.
Nice.
And
Nice.
really, I will say one thing this weekend. Doing all of these best ball leagues, doing all of these redraft leagues, doing all my rankings, it has helped so much with DFS. There is definitely an intersection. Knowing the player pool and knowing it well helps you in DFS also.
Exactly. Brandon, final words?
Yeah, man. So you can find most of my content over at campusdecanton.com. Of course, you can find me at X or Twitter at CFF University. During the offseason, I was doing the Future Freshmen podcast. That's the main focus on CFF Dynasty and those that are in Campus to Canton leagues that are looking for high upside college players and then ones that could possibly move over to the NFL. Now that that's over, I get to go back to my roots. I was NFL fantasy beforehand with the fantasy footballers and dynasty nerds. So me, I'm going to go and kind of go in what John's doing a little bit at NFL DFS and doing that for C2C. So we'll be doing more like just 5-7 minute videos that you can find on the actual YouTube page for Campus to Canton. We'll be talking about the Millie Maker, some strategy, stuff like that in the first week, and then we'll kind of look into like mainly stacks and stuff like that you can work on because DFS and NFL is way different. There's no super flex, so you got to be creative and you got to get different with 32 teams versus 133. So big difference.
Gotcha. Willie B, parting thoughts?
No, I just wanted to say thank you guys for joining us today. I know, giving up time on a Sunday. I really appreciate that. Love the content, the interaction with you guys. Finally get to see you face to face, or not face to face, but see your faces.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can have you guys back later on in the season.
Absolutely.
And good luck.
Right, which is a good point.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we're just getting started with kind of a bigger version of this than we've had in the past, and the way it evolved last year, which we thought was a nice natural evolution, was not only did we expand to 4 total pickers with two guest drafters, we took the best 6 through the first 7 weeks, and we had a little round robin over the last 3 weeks, and then the high scorer over those final 3 weeks ended up in the finals, going head to head against one another. So, we'll be, we're playing for pride. We're going to be evolving our business at CFF Lists into the CFF merchandise arena. Our plan this year is to get a Champions T-shirt out to the winner from the guest picker side of things. And of course, Willie B and I will continue to just go head to head and see who has the best record against one another on a weekly basis. But keep looking for our content on CFF Lists on Twitter. We're College Fantasy Football over on Instagram, where there, believe it or not, is some traction. Twitter is the place to be for CFF for the nitty gritty. But we got a few viewers over there on Instagram that are soaking up the content as well. So you can find us in both places. Good luck, everybody. It's going. We're 5 minutes ahead of time to get ready for that Rutgers Northwestern battle here. So let's tune into some more college football today.